So that process, the process of the family reunification came about because of something known as the Floors Agreement. And that came about through a series of Border Patrol just kept getting sued by attorneys that represented minor children that were in their care because they were doing a really crappy job. So a lot of abuse, neglect, just really, really horrible conditions. So they would be sued, the judge would tell them to do better, they'd say they do better, and then they wouldn't do better. So they'd be sued again, the judges would tell them to do better, they wouldn't do better. So the Floors Agreement was basically a judge saying that, hey, you really can't do a good job with this, so you can't house these kids longer than 72 hours. So some of the stories that Lindsay and I heard while working at our old agency were, for example, there was a Guatemalan teenage boy that came into our care. And on the first night, he ended up just urinating on the wall in his bedroom. And it was really confusing to us because we had bathrooms and, I mean, he had everything he needed. Later on, he spoke to his therapist and it came out that he was just afraid that our program was similar to Border Patrol. So that kind of shows you just how much abuse and neglect and what it's like to be down there.
He said that he was afraid that we were like Border Patrol and he was too scared to even talk to staff and say, can I go to the bathroom? And so that was pretty typical. I was actually, sorry Laura, I was thinking the other day, I forgot about this story. I've kind of blocked some things out of things, but I've had kids tell me stories about murder, the Border Patrol murder in immigrants. I had one child tell me she saw Border Patrol shoot a handcuffed man in the back. And I've had to contact the FBI more than once when I was working at this agency. But we would get stories, and both of us have filed complaints on physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse.
I mean, like the picture down here is like an example of the kind of cells that they would be housed in. So these are little aluminum blankets that they would get. So just imagine a child traveling for months, sometimes weeks. Sometimes they cross the river, your clothes are wet, like you're already exhausted. And then you're being housed in a cell that they refer to as la hielera, which is an ice box. So like the temperature issues was just very, very common. Every single child that I came across referred to it as la hielera. And so some of the stories, like the kids that come here are similar to kids like our kids, or I don't know if anybody has siblings or younger children. Like, just imagine where they're at right now in life. So they have their lives established, they have school, they have friends, they have their community, and then they have to leave that. I'm assuming that your siblings, at least my kids, wouldn't want to leave kind of their safe area, like what they know. So the choice of these kids leaving their countries to come here isn't actually a choice. So a lot of people think that they come here to chase the American dream or to get a better life. As children, they don't know anything better than what they know. That's their life. It may be different than what we know, but that's their life. That's what they love. So their choice of coming here usually means it's a choice it's between life and death. So the idea of their parents ending up here is that we should be life. So another story that from a kid that we had at our old agency, teenage boy from Guatemala, like sweetest little kid. Like he liked jazz, so just a kid that likes jazz probably doesn't get in trouble very much. So he came into our care. His background story was that he lived with his dad and two older siblings. And two older siblings, not like adult kids, like teenage boys. And his mom lived in the United States. She was working to help provide for the family. So when he was younger, his two older siblings were kidnapped by gang members. The family received a ransom, and they also received the kids' severed fingers in a box sent to them. So mom ended up coming up with the ransom and sent them money and paid the gang members, but they ended up killing the kids anyway. So as this boy got older, the family started seeing like cars that were associated with the initial gang members that had kidnapped his siblings driving around the home. So the family made the decision to send him to the United States just to save his life. So mom had to come up with between $5,000 to $10,000. It is really expensive to travel here. And sent him over to the U.S. He went through the program, eventually went with mom, and ultimately he may have still been deported to his death. We just don't know. So the act, taking children from parents policy, this is something that's kind of recent in our history. So part of the Floors Agreement stated that if a child is detained with a parent, they can't be in the care of Border Patrol longer than 20 days. So what Trump was doing was that he was trying to keep his families detained longer. So just to back up a little bit, to seek asylum. So they're coming here saying that, hey, if I go back to my home country, I'm going to be killed. And those families specifically are families that have passed the initial credible fear hearing. So they have like a legal right to be here and fight their case. In the past, the United States would just release them into the community with other family members or sponsors that would kind of house them so they'd be able to keep track of them until they fought their asylum case. And that can take between 1 to 2 years. So what Trump was trying to do with separating families policy was he was trying to keep them detained and have them fight their asylum cases from detention centers. And you can imagine that's difficult. I mean, you have to get proof, you have to get an attorney, you have to pay for an attorney, and that's kind of impossible to do so if you're locked up somewhere. So the reason why he was separating the children from their families was so that the children can stay there past the 20 days. So once it gets to the 20 days or close to the 20 days, he just rips them apart and sends these kids to programs, and so he can be able to keep the adults locked up longer. So that's children that's